Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. We are delighted to be here with you today on this panel speaking about a very, very important topic when it comes not just to Islamic finance, but the global financial services industry, and that is digital. There's no doubt that digital technology is not just enhancing the way we offer financial services to our customers, but fundamentally changing the way financial institutions interact and provide these different services. We are very privileged to have a distinguished panel of speakers who are representing many different types of institutions, whether it is a digital Islamic bank, whether it is an Islamic fintech firm, whether it is a crypto exchange, and we are very much looking forward to hearing their insights and their experience on how digital technology is changing the way they do business in their respective markets. Time is short, so without further ado, I'll go straight into the panel. And Parveen, I want to start with yourself. I mean, of all the institutions represented on stage, Vision Bank is the one that most closely resembles what we would consider to be a traditional Islamic bank. But obviously, you're fundamentally very different from a traditional Islamic bank, right? Being the first digital Islamic bank to be licensed by ADGM, what we want to understand is how does digital technology change what you do from what traditional Islamic banks do, right? What does it mean to be digitally first rather than be a bank first and then embrace digital transformation?
Sure.
Please.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to the second edition of Islamic Finance Summit and an extremely interesting topic of integrating the digital bank and the Islamic bank. You're absolutely right. We are the ADGM's first homegrown Category 1 digitally enabled corporate Islamic bank. Over here, our endeavor is to the impression is largely that you have either the speed or the values. We believe that we can, with our innovative financing solutions, innovative banking solutions, we can actually have ethical based banking, and that too in a very, very digital, quick manner. And that's what we are here for. And as you rightly said, that we are, when we started, most of the banks have the banking and then they put the in IT or IT guardrails later. They already have the infrastructure. In our case, we consciously believed that in order to be a successful digitally enabled bank, we have to invest in technology. Obviously, that's very intensive and expensive, but that really helps us to be first mover advantage and to deliver the product at a very breakneck speed. And especially in this part of the world where SMEs constitute 94%, we are catering to the SMEs, and account opening takes from months to days, which is our biggest USP. So I'll leave it over here, but you're absolutely right. We are a digitally enabled Islamic corporate bank.
No, that's fantastic. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, whether it's a compromise between speed or values, in your case, there is no compromise. You have to deliver on both aspects in tandem. Junaid, I want to come to you, and obviously, with what Wahid is doing, Vision Bank being a traditional, digital Islamic bank, but Wahid is, if I was to describe it, an entity that is looking to disrupt traditional Islamic banking, right? You guys are changing the way that customers save their money. You guys are changing the way that customers invest their money, how they grow their wealth. How critical has digital technology been to the success of Wahid, and where do you see it, the digital channels leading you going forward?
Thank you. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So we first don't think the concept of Islamic banking makes much sense in general, right? So we came up with Wahid to try and reinvent Islamic finance, saying, let's not do any money lending. Let's stick to custody. Let's stick to assets. And none of that would be possible without technology. There's no way. So technology allows us to fractionalize. It allows us to create liquidity on a scale that was never possible before. Previously, if you wanted to make a global investment house for retail, you'd have to set up branches or, buy one sukuk at a time, like huge blocks, for portfolios, you'd need over $1 million. Technology allowed us to fractionalize everything, create platforms where there's almost no marginal cost to distribute. So today we have, 500,000 clients. We have, we're past $1 billion of AUM now, comfortably. We have our own funds. And we think we can 10x this without increasing any cost, without any more, physical presence. So that was never possible before. And the entire concept of what we're trying to do with Islamic finance is allow people to live without exposure to, interest or debt or money lending in general. And this entire hypothesis would not be possible without technology. So I would say it is imperative to what we're doing at Wahid, or trying to do.
No, that is fantastic. I mean, you mentioned the fractionalized component, and we know from experience that Indonesia, UAE, whenever markets have introduced fractionalized sukuk or fractionalized instruments, there have been huge intake. I think $2 billion is the Indonesian retail sukuk, $4 billion is the UAE sukuk al watani, that's based out of Dubai. So I think that fundamentally changes how customers would engage with that. Sina, I want to bring you into the conversation as well.
Thank you.
And when we think about digitalization, sometimes we always think about digitizing an existing process, right? But digital technology creates a lot more than that. And particularly disruptive technologies like blockchain have created entirely new asset classes for investors, the digital assets that increasingly are becoming important. And across the spectrum of investors, whether it's mass market, whether it's affluent, whether it's institutional, everybody is looking at how to allocate a portion of their wealth to the digital asset space. So from your perspective, how has accessibility to this asset class changed? And how does digital technology enable you to access more customers to make it a seamless experience for those who want or have an interest in investing in these digital assets?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. So what it was, when we created the company actually in 2017, 2018, it's exactly, we wanted to build a bridge from the best performing asset class, like the digital assets, and bring them in a wrapper, like a compliant, regulated, transparent wrapper, but everybody knows goes like very institutional. So we decided at that time to create some, in Europe we call it an ETP, around outside of Europe we call it an ETF, and we brought that actually to the exchanges, the traditional exchanges, that everybody has access in a regulated way and can buy that. And by doing so, actually, I figured, because it's now a while I'm in the industry, it really gave a shift actually from the early stage tech people, like the techie people would go into the digitals. Now it's even not about should we buy it or should we get involved in it? It's shifted to kind of how should we go into this asset class? So it was really a shift from that. And what we also do is we have even Shahira compliant ETFs, like our Bitcoin, for example, and Bitcoin gold ETF. So we see a high demand also in the GCC region, because it's a population which is actually quite young. 70%, for example, in Saudi. I was really mind blown by this number, but I've read that 70% of the Saudi people are under 35 years old, and 25% of the population in UAE is even under 25 years old. And of course, the younger people, they really like tech. So we wanted really not only to create something for younger people, that's not what I'm saying, but we wanted to really create something for everybody, even institutional grade.
No, thank you very much. And I think that, one of the things that you highlighted is it's no longer why, but how we make that investment, because that is changing. And the shift, I think we can all, in some capacity, relate, where once upon a time, digital assets were only restricted to techie, as you said, techie individuals who knew how to gain access to that. Today, it's being streamlined for everybody, even, non-tech oriented individuals, to be able to invest in that. You mentioned the Sharia compliant ETF. I'm going to come back to that because I do have a question on that. But before I do, I want to jump to Junaid again. And Junaid, when we think of Islamic finance, one of the primary drivers of Islamic finance is to serve the unbanked or underbanked, right? To address this challenge of financial inclusion. Now, fortunately for us in the GCC, it's not as significant, although there are pockets of demographics that are underbanked to a great extent. And internationally, when we look at Islamic markets, it's a major challenge of financial inclusion, right? So how has technology facilitated this objective of Islamic finance to make everyone inclusive? And specifically from Wahid's case, who operates in different markets, what has been your experience in different markets in getting customers onboarded that may not have been fully banked before?
That's a great question. So, one of the main goals of Islamic finance is circulating and redistributing wealth, right? So until you could say technology adoption, which is relatively recent, I'd say in the past 10 years in financial services, before then you had two distinct classes. You have the wealthy, the rich people who have access to all the asset classes, right? They can buy properties, for example. Most people, 80, 90%, could not afford a single property, right? Their money's in the bank. Money's in the bank in fiat currency. It's depleting away with inflation. Banks are ripping everyone off, right? Creating inequality. So what do you do? So with technology and adoption, you now have almost leveled the playing field, right? So you have retail with products, like Sina's company. Anyone can access these institutional assets with any amount. You have ETFs, you have ETPs, you have all the apps. And that is a huge factor in the growth of Islamic finance, even if it's not within the Islamic finance industry, because Islamic finance really pushes for that redistribution, for that inclusion and accessibility. Technology has allowed that to happen. Now, for us with Wahid, we launched in Malaysia a few years ago, and we had over 50% of our clients coming from rural areas and classified as B40, the bottom 40% of society, who in Malaysia are the Bumiputra, like the Malay population. And everyone, including the government, is mind blown by this. It's like, where did they come from? Like, we've been trying to get them into the financial system for so long. Like, how are they all your clients? And turns out, also a fun fact, unfortunately, the more poorer the population, like the lower income demographic, they tend to care more about Sharia compliance. And it seems like the wealthy people care less. And that's one of our findings. So now they finally have access to keep their money in line with their faith. And not only that, if you look at the returns they're earning now, it is in line, if not better, than the ultra-high net worths who have their money at the private bank. And this was never possible before. So this is pushing that entire mandate of Islamic finance, of our religion, for allowing that equality, stopping the inequality spread and the redistribution of wealth with investment. So I think huge factor.
No, I think a very inspirational story, and kudos to Wahid for this. I remember very well, once upon a time, property was considered as the only avenue for an ordinary individual to attain any kind of wealth in their life, and all aspirations were around obtaining property, which was obviously, as you said, very restrictive, and providing access to all asset classes to individuals at a retail level, not having to compromise on their values. I think is the way that Islamic finance theoretically always promoted itself. And it's great to see people like Wahid who are confirming the hypothesis by attracting those customers. You mentioned Sharia compliance. I will come back on that as well, because I want to ask Sina about that particularly, who is not as familiar. So we'd love to get her points on that. But before that, Praveen, I want to come to you, right? When we think about digital banking, or when we think about digital technology enabling banking, it's very easy to understand how it benefits ordinary customers, retail customers, right? I have a smartphone, everyone has a smartphone, we can access banking service on our smartphone, right? What may not be as clear for everyone is, how do digital technologies help corporate banking, right? Now, Vision Bank, being a bank that specializes and focuses on corporates, focuses on SMEs in particular, which may not get the same type of banking services that the larger corporates get. From your perspective, how does digital banking, or how do digital technologies enable you to serve the needs of those customers, to address their pain points, and help uplift them from a banking perspective?
Quite an interesting question. It's very close to my heart, actually, because all of us know that IT has pervaded in every part of life, and especially in the banking, the retail side. But corporate bastion remains unconquered. That is very, very clear, because of one is the reluctance of adoption. And second, I can tell you about the credit part of it. Most of the times, the retail bank loan dispersal is very, very scorecard driven. But in case of a corporate banking, the large loan distribution, the chief risk officer wants it to be more of a subjective assessment. Now, at Vision Bank, we take pride. Not only, I won't say the only bank, but I think we are the first bank to have digitized the Murabha deposit taking. Just to take you a little bit for uninitiated, uh, in case of Islamic banking, everything has to be backed by a commodity contract. So sometimes it becomes cumbersome for a person who is doing the Islamic banking. He has to sign a lot of papers. In our case, he just goes onto the his portal. He books a contract. Everything at the back end is automatically executed seamlessly from our technology provider. So all Murabha contract, Wakala contracts, commodity contracts gets executed on its own. One. Second is, I think most of the time corporate banking involves, because there is a FATCA declaration, there is a CRS declaration, in a way that is digitized, but not to that extent. Per person on the corporate side has to take a printout, sign it off, those declarations, then again upload it. In our case, we have digitized, and we take pride in that, the full FATCA and CRS journey also. Third, very, very important, what we have done, which is very, very time consuming for the corporates, is suppose a corporate comes to ADGM, it sets up the shop, it gives us all its variable, what's the certificate of incorporation, what is certificate of incumbency. And once he comes to the bank to open the account, we are asked the same question. But here we have done seamless integration with the registration authority of ADGM and DIFC, where we pull the data automatically. So there is no duplication for the customer. He just has to put his client registration number. So all these factors put together puts us in a very, very NYS position where we are able to onboard the customer end-to-end digital journey. It's breaking anywhere, whether it's onboarding or it's actually execution of the contract. So that's what we have been doing.
No, I think that sounds fantastic. And as you mentioned, not just digitizing the process, but connectivity with, institutions like ADGM, like DIFC and others can help automate and verify.
Absolutely.
So not just in terms of, simplifying the paperwork, but also from a risk perspective, the verification process also gets addressed. I think that is fantastic. And obviously the digitization of, what we remember as being very, very manual driven Islamic contracts and whatnot will greatly aid the operational challenges of any institution,
Absolutely.
not just corporate.
May I also ask a question for you?
Please.
So would you bank actually also offer something like an ETF from digital assets later on?
That is, so what we are doing, Sina, we are launching the bank in a phased manner. In the first phase, we are in the liability mobilization. Second phase will be financing. And third will be then the fee-based, which will be the ETF actually.
So we will speak later then.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's on the horizon.
It's one of the most important asset
Yeah,
classes,
yeah.
for sure. And it's a fee-based income.
Yes.
So it's good for me.
Of course. So just on that ETF point, Sina, I want to
Yeah.
come to you because you mentioned that you have launched the Sharia compliant ETF, Bitcoin and gold. For those of us who are in the industry and very deep in the industry, whenever a new product is launched, the biggest issue is always, is it Sharia compliance, right? And every market, every scholar has a different view, they have different perspectives, and it takes many years till the matter is settled and there's broad acceptability, right? I would love to get your take as somebody who operates out of Switzerland, who is a little bit distant from Islamic finance. When you launched your Sharia compliant ETFs, what was the experience of launching it? How was the engagement with the scholars and institutions that verified it? And most importantly, what was the reaction from customers who are Sharia sensitive, who then bought into that?
Excellent. So first I have to say maybe we offer over 60 different ETFs worldwide, which we are the leaders worldwide for this industry. And we are not only operating in Switzerland, where is our headquarters, we are also listed in Europe, everywhere, also in Nasdaq Dubai, like I mentioned already, like for our Shahira compliant products, but also Australia and Brazil, and soon also at a very great spot here at GCC. I can't say too much because stay tuned. But it's in fact, yes, coming back a little bit more to your question, how the customers act actually. I must say, because I'm very close to the end customers, they are very, very grateful that a wrap-up like we are giving is existing. So it's physically backed. All the ETFs are physically backed, which is extremely important for Shahira compliant, right? That they get actually the upside potential from the underlying. And they want to have a wrapper which is secured, which is, regulated, which gives them a good feeling that they know they did their due diligence. They want to have something they trust, actually, because trust is something when we invest in an asset class, if it's digital or something else, is a key element. You only invest actually what you have trust and what you know. And coming maybe also something I could explain a little bit. When I started about 6 years ago in our company, I told my colleagues, because I was one of the earliest colleagues in our company, we can forget about selling our products, because until people will buy something in the digital space, people need to understand what they're buying. So we have in-house our own research team, and we give out actually around the globe a lot of really great, insightful research, and we offer even some educational sessions. I was just this week in the region here with some sovereign funds, and they actually, and also reporters, they're super interested also to get a high-level educational session, because before you go in a wrapper or any kind of product or whatever you invest, you want to be sure you understand what you're doing, because sometimes you have even responsibility for your clients. It's maybe not for yourself. Sure, everybody can buy it, but it's a big responsibility. So I think before you buy something, it's important to understand what you're doing and understand the asset class, because Bitcoin is not Ethereum. Ethereum is like not Solana, XRP, Ripple. You might have heard these names, Sui and so on. We need to understand what we're doing, right? And that's why we offer so many different products. Some of the people, some of the investors like this, the other one like that. Some of them want to have index or top 5 crypto basket, a top 10 crypto basket, etc. We offer them all.
No, I think that's a very, very important point, particularly as you mentioned about the research, creating awareness, the education, because when we look at Islamic finance in any new market, you know, the institutions that invest in education, awareness building, training, and creating familiarity with their products are the ones that succeed the most, right? This has been apparent in the industry, and it also tags into the points earlier mentioned about trust, about being aligned to the values of the individual customers, and so on. No, I think that is great. I'm mindful of the time. We don't have too much more, but I would like to ask a question to all three panelists and maybe restrict your answers to 2 minutes each. And that is, when we think about digital transformation, digital technology, you know, many people say we're just at the starting point, we're at the cusp of it, right? Technology is going to change the way we operate in the future very much. And, you know, it's always difficult to make projections of the future, but I would like to ask you, and then maybe Sina, we can start with yourself and then run down the table. When you look ahead, you know, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how do you see the industry changing, right? How do you see the way customers interact with institutions, the way institutions operate, the tools that are utilized? How is that going to change in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's one of my favorite questions, by the way. Thank you so much for asking. So, like I said already in my speech before, like the conversation shifted from not should we, but more like how should we. But I give you, because I like personal stories, real-time stories. For example, one of my of our employees, she was looking for a house in Switzerland, and she was in Switzerland. When you buy a house, you need to have a paper which shows like you have no debts, you have enough asset in the background, etc. So she was going online because she's quite young and they wanted to apply for this paper. And actually, the funny part is there was a little sign from Ethereum on this platform. And she was like, what is that, right? And she called the IT service from this platform. We speak about real estate, by the way, not about crypto now. And they explained to her actually that they have in the back, like as a platform, Ethereum platform, because it's for security reason and smart contracts that when she does have this paper, that the people know it's not a fake paper. It's something really real existing. And why I'm telling you this story is because I find this interesting. Her husband did exactly the same, and he even didn't see this Ethereum sign. So he just took actually crypto Ethereum platform on that side and got this paper. So what I wanted to say with my statement is, I think the future will be we use something and we even don't know that we use, for example, something like crypto. Because if you use like your ChatGPT, are you really sure what is going in the background? I don't think so. You just want to use it in a nice way and have something which you can apply. I think that's the future, that we use it on a daily basis and we don't care about the underlying, about the platform.
No, I think that's a fantastic example that really illustrates how this disruptive technology actually has use cases that are being utilized in the market. And like you said, I feel that as well. We will have all of these technological tools, and we're not going to be concerned about the back end of how it operates, but it's going to make things simplified and it's going to make verification much stronger going ahead. Parveen, the same question for you. When you look ahead 5 years, 10 years from now, how do you see the market and landscape changing from what it is today?
So I think the biggest problem right now, the problem statement right now is we are talking so much of exotic stuff, ETF, cryptocurrencies and all that. But the biggest problem is the opening of bank account, and especially for a corporate. There are 94% SMEs over here who really find it difficult for next, it takes 3 to 6 months for any SME to open a corporate account with a bank, and with a very strong AML guidelines, KYC guidelines become extremely difficult. And in this part of the world, we are 55 banks competing for the same pie. What we believe that if we can crack open this issue of opening the bank account with very, very seamlessly, we can be like NVIDIA is for the AI, let these guys make the whole exotic stuff, but banking, the opening of bank account will be done by me. So that's where we look ourselves to be, that if we're able to crack this puzzle of seamlessly opening a bank account, any account, any exotic derivative stuff, any ETF, any crypto, any Bitcoin, all those currencies require a bank account. And that's what we believe, that we can open that, we can fill that gap. That is the biggest differentiating factor for us. So that's what I believe, I'll be focusing only very simple thing, which is opening a bank account.
No, that's a very, very interesting insight. And I don't think that, many people realize that even today, hundreds of years since the modern financial system has been set up, something as simple as opening a bank account for a corporate, entity where, you have owners, you have sources of funds, you have operations, is not as simple as people expect. And before we move to the exotic stuff, as you said, we need to get the bases in order, and hopefully technology will help to unlock these persistent challenges that have been there for a very long time. Junaid, 1 minute left. It's very brief, but I'll leave the last word to you.
Do you mean the Islamic finance industry? Like where you see that?
I mean globally, from your perspective, and I know you're an optimist in terms of, seeing change in the industry. In a best case scenario, how do you think the industry is going to
My best case scenario?
Your best case, your vision for the future.
I would say for the Islamic finance industry, and the way I see it going, is the entire concept of a bank will go away in the next 10 years. So people will be keeping their money at custodians and asset platforms. Because back in the day, you had to keep it at a bank. You had to keep it at a lending institution. You had to keep it in fiat currency, not for long. So I also, inshallah, hope, that this will happen. And the entire concept of Islamic banking should go away in the next 10 years, inshallah.
So
sorry, may I just ask again? You said in the next 10 years, banking will go away.
Islamic
banking.
Islamic finance.
Yeah.
No, conventional for sure. Money lending is conventional thing.
So we go back to the old days of all our wealth being kept in gold,
custodians, whatever asset you want. Take your pick. Nice and safe, clean. You can
transact. Finally, it has to be exchanged. It can't be barter system, right?
No way. We are launching a digital bank without lending tomorrow. You can, with liquidity, with technology. We're doing it, right? Debit cards, IBAN numbers, transfers, but everything's in assets.
Fair enough.
If that vision is achieved, I have no doubt Wahid will play a role in
We're doing it. We'll try our best.
I think I have a strong reservation on that, because
as a banker,
absolutely, because most of the central bank are issuing their own CBDC, right?
Yeah, but capital markets regulators are fine. Yeah,
fair enough. So that's fine. I think what they are.
I think this is the age-old debate between banking and that. But what is clear to see is that whichever direction the industry goes is going to fundamentally change from where it is today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Please join me in giving a round of applause to my speakers for the panel.
Thank you.